might be they didn't want to be directly associated with it. There was a lot of excitement around Louis Vincent's discoveries, and some of this got back to Europe and to the Rothschild family that had already been invested in many settlements that were doing agriculture. But he said, you know what, if there's something, we should also get into finding historical monuments. According to a French archaeologist named Clermont-Ganneau, if David's tomb should be in this area where we are right now. Okay, the particulars aren't that interesting to us. It has to do with what you saw. Did you walk through the water tunnel?
No, not the water. Just only the dry part.
So the wet tunnel goes around this area. It makes a huge S shape around it. And nobody could figure out why it made such a large detour around this area. And what was suggested by Clermont-Ganneau is they didn't want to go under David's tomb, King David's tomb. That was an inappropriate place to dig under. There may not have been an official Jewish law against it, but they didn't want to go near it. It was a theory, but it was enough for the Rothschild family, particularly the French branch of the Rothschild, of Edmund Rothschild, to do what? To purchase. He purchased all this land, all the land on the eastern slope of what was then Al Bustan. Okay? Again, today we call the whole thing Silwan. That's not the name. The names of the people here, the valley over there is Wadi El Hilwe.
Wadi Hilwe.
Hilwe. This is Silwan is over here. Okay, and this area in the middle was usually called El Bustan. Okay, so just understand that's the gist. Bustan means it was an orchard. It was a place where they were growing trees. Anyway, so this area was purchased by Rothschild, and he wanted to send an archaeologist. We're in 1911, 1912. Okay, archaeology, Petrie hadn't discovered that we date things based on pottery, so we're talking a very early stage. They found a guy named Raymond Weil. Nothing has to do, it's not the watches. No relationship to watches. And Raymond Weil, who was an Egyptologist, he happened to be also Jewish, but that was just circumstance. Egyptologist, he studied ancient Egypt. Okay, and he came here for 2 years, in 1912 and 1913. He brought in all the townspeople to come, and they dug up this whole area. Now, if Edmund Rothschild sends you to find David's tomb,
you have to find
David's tomb. Yes. Okay. You're paid to find David's tomb, and therefore he described these very interesting rock cuttings as the tomb of David. Now, are they? Let's just say most scholarship doesn't believe there is convincing proof here that these are tombs. I will tell you that we don't have any better candidate right now. There may be one, and if you want, it's probably the only other candidate is someplace closer to the palace. Okay, that maybe there's an area there they still haven't excavated. That may be excavated the next 10 years, next 20 years. And if we find David's tomb over there, I won't claim it's this. In the meantime, there are very good reasons to think it's here. I'll give you 2 of the sources. The rest you can look at literature. 1. The David's tomb had a monument on it in the Second Temple period that was known to everyone. It's mentioned in the book of Josephus, it's mentioned in the New Testament, and it's mentioned in a few other sources. Okay, it was probably destroyed by the Romans. There were riches there, and it was robbed by Herod once. Anyway, I won't go into those stories. Where was that? So we don't know for sure, but we have a rabbinic source. Have you heard about what a Mishnah is?
Yes.
Okay, so the Mishnah is a collected book of the laws that were collected by Judah the prince in the year 200 of all the laws according to different topics. But he wanted it to be concise. So there were many laws that were important and they were still legal, but they didn't make it into that corpus. And they're in a separate book. It's less known. And it's called the Tosefta. Okay? Individual Toseftas, if they appear in the Talmud, are called Braita. That's super extra credit. Okay? In this Tosefta, in the tractate of Baba Batra, which deals with, it says the following. It says that I was talking about what things you can move, what are the legitimate reasons to move tombs. We don't move burial. Once per is burial, we let them stay there. But it says, if it is a tomb that is damaging to the public, what's damaging to the public? On a public road and people can't walk. You can move the tomb. If the city expands and now you have to live there, you can move a tomb. But then it says that so basically the assumption is we do not build tombs inside of a city. And then it says, however, there were two tombs of two individuals that were allowed to be built inside the city. One is Huldah the prophetess. For some reason, Ben Michael Babiona thought it could be near the gates of Huldah going up to Temple Mount. That doesn't make any sense, but we'll leave aside for now. What's important to us is that it says the tombs of David were along the Kidron Valley, and they had tunnels that took the impurity out to the Kidron Valley. So it has to be on the edge. And these tunnels, it could be that's what we're looking at right here. In addition to that source, in the book of Nehemiah, where we describe the walls that were built by Nehemiah, after when you go back home, look at this. It says, as it gives you the different families that built the sections of the walls, the sons of Yazbuk and the sons of this one, it says that the tombs of David were adjacent to the stairs going up to the city of David, which most people assume were over here. Gabi Barkai believes that actually the city of David was right over here. That most people don't agree with. But if you remember when I said, what was the other option? What is over there? So as I said, that source both those sources could either be here or over there. Since the excavations of Shiloh and Reich and Shukron, we've exposed much of the area, and we have not found any better candidate than this one right here. So as of now, we have a sign that says the tombs of David, with David was buried here, and let's say 6 or 7 of the subsequent kings. Many of the other kings were buried elsewhere. Was it here? I can't tell you 100%, but it's a good chance. Okay, there are much more that we can talk about, but this is one of the candidates. As you can see, it was turned into a quarry. Those stones here, though, I always think are very porous and cracked. Why would the Romans turn this into a quarry? Is it possible that they saw a national monument and said, let's turn that area, let's get rid of all memory of whatever was there? I'm raising that as an option, something as tour guides we can tell. In academic circles, this is just complete guesswork, but it's a possibility. All of this is only one of the important things that we found here. Another important thing we found here is just on the other side here. They found, by the way, a few ritual baths and other cavities here, and a few cisterns. In one of the cisterns, they found neatly placed, beautiful decorated stones that seem to have been part of a synagogue. Why couldn't it have been a church? Because this was all destroyed in the year 70, and therefore probably wasn't a church. There may have been a small community run by James, but they probably didn't have a church by then. Okay, so it's probably a synagogue. And in the ruins of this synagogue, they also found a very important inscription. This inscription used to be in the Rockefeller Museum. It is one of the only things that they moved from the Rockefeller Museum. Because it was so important, they moved it to the Israel Museum. A copy of it is right over there, and I brought it here. We can look at it. It is known as the Theodosius inscription.
Actually, what's the name
and
of this?
And it's very important. This is
area?
David's tomb. It's called usually the Weil excavation.
Are you going to tell us the secret about how to get in? Because it didn't.
Yeah, you come from the other way. Okay, so this is it. Now, it's in Greek. Okay, it's a beautiful inscription done by some professional. What does it say? It says Theodosius, son of Betinos, Archisinagogos, and son of Archisinagogos, and grandson of Archisinagogos. Okay, they built the synagogue for the reading of the Torah and for teaching of the commandments, and the guest house and the rooms and the water installations for hosting those in need from abroad, which was founded by his fathers, the elders and Simonides. There was a time that I did this by heart. I haven't done it a few times. I can't read the Greek right now, although I can read Vetinos and Archisinagogos and so on. So, what is this? This is an inscription from a synagogue from when? The Second Temple period. And they're not that many. Remember this when we talk about the Magdala synagogue, which has a very special stone, which is now in the Davidson, where we're going to be in an hour or so. Okay? What else can we learn from this? This is a synagogue. Now, this is archaeological evidence that we had a synagogue here. We don't know where the building was. The assumption, though, is that the building was not that far from here. Imagine, like, you're going to destroy a synagogue and mess up the stones. You're not going to take the stone a few kilometers away. It's probably a few feet away somewhere in this vicinity. And it's in Greek. And it says the name of the guy here is Simon, the son of, the Theodos, the son of Vetanos. Now, those are two names that are not very Jewish. This is a Jewish synagogue. Okay? They sound foreign. And you should know the Jews in the Greek period adopted Greek names, like all the kings. Some of them had only Greek